So you want to learn about AWS certifications? Well, you came to the right place. Hey guys, welcome back to the Cloudiator podcast. I'm RJ Jeffrey. If you don't know me, I eat, sleep, breathe all things AWS. I'm an 8-time AWS certified cloud engineer working with the platform for about 13 years now, and an application developer really at heart. Now, we call it Cloudiator because that's the official moniker we give those that have at least 5 of the primary AWS certifications, and we'll talk about those in a second. Now, this isn't going to be a training video. If you want training, there are a lot of credible resources available, and we'll go over some of those at the end of this episode. So you're here because you either want to get certified or you're curious about the process. First, ask yourself why. Better job? More pay maybe? I'll tell you this, it does indeed establish instant credibility with your employer, prospective employer, and your clients. Now, it's not the end all and be all to experience, but it's definitely going to get you about 6/10 of the way there. Also, if you're in consulting or if you're an organization that wants to be AWS partners, and that's when AWS helps promote your business, your organization is required to maintain a minimum level of certified individuals to advance through the AWS Partner Network program. So it puts a higher value on these certs than otherwise. Then there's the what. What type of certification or certifications are ideal for your role? If you're a developer, your certification goals may be much different than a solution architect's, and vice versa. So this video is about certifications, but we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on the pre-certifications program as well, the AWS accreditations. There are 3, technical, business, and cloud economics. And they all have an upgrade path, if you will, to certifications on AWS's certifications roadmap. One thing to note, though, is that these are mainly geared towards AWS partners, especially the business accreditation. So we won't spend a whole lot of time on the accreditations themselves. Just know that they're pretty simple, they're pretty quick. The courses are available on AWS.Training, and they're all about 3 to 3.5 hours long. Okay, so let's move on to certifications. So here's what the overall AWS exam roadmap looks like. All of these require at least some sort of IT technical acumen. You got to have some sort of technical background to really get the most out of these and to be successful with them. The questions are also not always the right answer. They're the best answer given the options, right? So it's especially true when it comes to the professional level exams when you're dealing with a lot of scenarios. So let's start with the foundational certification, and that's the Cloud Practitioner. It's a great place to start regardless of your experience. If you're just starting out, it's going to give you a lot of the fundamentals. And I think experienced folks will also benefit by getting to experience the AWS exam, understand its blueprint and how to take one. Also, it can be a relatively easy win that can keep your momentum going. It's recommended that you have 6 months of hands-on experience, and it's going to validate the following. What is AWS and the basic global infrastructure, the basic AWS cloud architectural principles, understanding AWS's value proposition, so you can have an intelligent conversation around cloud and its benefits with people, describe key services that AWS offers and simple use cases, compute, data, etc. Describe basic security and compliance, and the overall shared security model that AWS has a framework around. You're going to be able to define the billing, accounts management, and pricing models, where to go for more understanding, for example, white papers or support tickets, and describe the basic core characteristics of deploying and operating in the AWS cloud. So that's the foundational level. The next level is the associate level. These are all about $150 to take, and they're all about 130 minutes in length. You can finish faster, but if you're just starting out, it might take you the full 130 minutes. There are multiple choice and some simple scenarios that you'll have to answer. So multiple choice and multiple answers in some regards as well. The associate architect is good for solution architects, and it's really going to be a breadth of experience building various solutions. AWS recommends at least 1 year of experience hands-on with their platform, and the validations are as follows. You need to be able to effectively demonstrate how to architect and deploy secure and robust applications on AWS. You need to be able to define solutions based on requirements, provide implementation guidance using best practices, and have the ability to identify which services meet certain requirements. And this is a tricky one, so make sure you do your homework. You might have hands-on experience, but that experience doesn't always lend itself to some of the nuances of the questions being asked. The next one is the SysOps administrator. This is good for obviously system administrators, sysadmins, and really operations-focused roles, or even DevOps. AWS recommends 1 year of hands-on experience, and the validations are as follows. Deploy, manage, and operate fault-tolerant systems on AWS that are highly available and scalable. Notice there's nothing here on architecting. It's more operations-focused. Implement and control the flow of data to and from AWS. How to get data in, how to get data out, that kind of thing. Select the appropriate AWS service based on compute, data, or security requirements. So know all the services and how to size instances. Identify appropriate use of AWS operational best practices. Estimate AWS usage costs and identify operational cost control mechanisms. So how to estimate cost and the controls that are used to manage it. And then migrate on-premises workloads to AWS. So you need to know the migration piece of this as well. If you have on-premises servers or on-premises applications, what are the processes you would go through to migrate those to AWS? All right, so let's talk about developer, the developer associate. So after the cloud practitioner cert, the developer associate is arguably the easier of the exams. And it's good for application developers or DevOps roles. This one's a little more application focused, however. AWS recommends that you have at least 1 year of hands-on experience as well. And the validations are understand core AWS services, uses, and best practices, and demonstrate proficiency in developing, deploying, and debugging cloud-based applications using AWS. All right, so that's it for the foundational and the associate level. Let's move on to the professional level certifications. So as an overview, these cost about $300 and you're allotted 180 minutes to take the exam. Questions are almost all scenario based, so expect a lot of reading, and reading comprehension skills really do come into play. I'm personally a slower reader, so I have a little more struggle when it comes to this. English is my second language, but I think I've done just fine with it. And if you apply yourself, I think you'd be fine as well. So let's talk about the architect professional. This is good for experienced solution architects or senior solution architects, or those wanting to be one. AWS recommends that you have at least 2 years of comprehensive hands-on experience with their platform. The validations are as follows. Design and deploy dynamic, scalable, highly available, fault-tolerant, and reliable applications on AWS. Select appropriate AWS services to design and deploy an application based on given requirements. Migrate complex, multi-tier applications to AWS. Design and deploy enterprise-wide scalable operations on AWS, and also implement cost control strategies as well. That's for the solution architect professional. Let's move on to the other professional certification, which is the DevOps engineer. And I must say that this one's arguably the most difficult of the original 5 certifications. It's good for experienced or senior DevOps engineers or those that want to be one. AWS recommends that you have experience developing code. I would agree if this is a role you are pursuing. You will definitely need development skills in DevOps or DevOps related roles. But the test itself isn't going to test your programming skills beyond the very basics of scripting. The validations are going to be implement and manage continuous delivery systems and methodologies on AWS, implement and automate security controls, governance processes, and compliance validation, define and deploy monitoring, metrics, and logging using logging systems on AWS, implement systems that are highly available, scalable, and self-healing on the AWS platform, and design, manage, and maintain tools to automate operational processes. All right. So we finished the foundation, we finished the associate level, and we finished the professional level certifications. These are the associates and the professional levels are all the primary AWS certifications. Now we're going to move into the specialty certs. The specialty certs are demonstrate and show your proficiency in these specific areas. They include advanced networking, security, Alexa skill builder, data analytics, database, and machine learning. So let's start with the advanced networking. These are $300 for the exam, and they allot you about 170 minutes. And I'll tell you, the advanced networking is hands down the most difficult of all of these tests, if not of all of the IT tests I've ever seen. AWS recommends a minimum of 5 years of comprehensive hands-on experience implementing and architecting network solutions. What makes it harder, I think, is if you don't have a network background. But even if you do, I did, it's all the little gotchas, right? So there's a lot of exceptions to the traditional networking rules that you got to be aware of. And it's understanding what's the gotcha and what's the not gotchas, right? What you can do in the AWS world and what you can do in the traditional networking world. There are many things in AWS that behave differently than traditional networking. And it's really keeping track of these exceptions that makes this a more difficult test with or without networking experience. So this is good for those who are performing more complex networking tasks. But as a consultant who often speaks with networking folks, I think this is essential for what I do and allows me to have more intelligent conversations with my clients. So take that for what it's worth, and I would recommend pursuing it regardless of your role, as networking is a key fundamental piece of AWS. The validations are design, develop, and deploy cloud-based solutions using AWS, implement core AWS services according to basic architecture best practices, design and maintain network architecture for all AWS services, leverage tools to automate AWS networking tasks. Really, this is heavy on connectivity. So things like Direct Connect, VGWs, VPN, MPLS, IP CIDRs and subnetting, you have to understand those. Understanding IPsec transitioning requirements, routing, BGP, also some of the high-level security services like WAF, how to handle DDoS, and IDS and IPS services as well. These are the things that you'll want to keep in mind. Moving on to the security, this is also $300 and 170 minutes long. Probably the simplest, I think, of all the specialty certs. AWS recommends at least 2 years of hands-on experience securing workloads in AWS. They also recommend 5 years of career experience in IT. So you understand some of the traditional security challenges of an IT organization. This is good for those who are in a security role within an organization. And the validations are as follows. Have an understanding of specialized data classifications and AWS data protection mechanisms, an understanding of data encryption methods and AWS mechanisms to implement them, an understanding of secure internet protocols and AWS mechanisms to implement them, a working knowledge of AWS security services and features of services to provide a secure production environment, competency gained from 2 or more years of production deployment experience using AWS security services and features, ability to make trade-off decisions with regard to cost, security, and deployment complexity given a set of application requirements, and an understanding of security operations and risks. All right, so let's move on to the Alexa Skill Builder. Again, $300 and 170 minutes is what's allotted. If you want to build Alexa skills, this is the cert for you. You'll have to have some proficiency with software development. AWS recommends 6 months of experience building, testing, and publishing Alexa skills as well. The validations are: explain the value of voice, design the user experience, design the architecture to build the skill, follow AWS and Alexa security best practices for the skill, develop, test, validate, and troubleshoot the skill, manage the skill publishing process and work with the Alexa developer console, and manage skill operations and life cycles. All right, so let's move on to the data analytics. So this was originally part of the big data certification, and that was split up. And this one's really a deeper dive on AWS's data lake and analytics services. AWS recommends that you have at least 5 years of hands-on experience with data analytics technologies and 2 years hands-on with AWS. And the validations are: define AWS analytics services and understand how they integrate with each other. Explain how AWS data analytics services fit in the data lifecycle of collection, storage, processing, and visualization. Okay, so let's move on to the other data-related cert, which is now the database certifications, or the database specialty certification. This was originally, again, part of the big data certification. Now it focuses deeper on AWS databases specifically. AWS recommends at least 5 years of hands-on experience with database technologies and 2 years hands-on with AWS itself. The validations are: understand and differentiate the key features of AWS database services, and analyze needs and requirements to recommend and design appropriate database solutions using AWS services. All right, finally, the machine learning specialty certification. Again, $300. This one you get 180 minutes. This is for those who are or want to be in a data sciences role. So AWS recommends that you have at least 1 to 2 years of experience developing, architecting, and running machine learning or deep learning workloads on AWS Cloud. Validations are: select and justify the appropriate machine learning approach for a given business problem, identify appropriate AWS solutions and services to implement machine learning solutions, design and implement scalable, cost-optimized, reliable, and secure machine learning solutions. Okay, cool. So we've talked about all the solutions. Let's talk about how you get to study and get yourself prepped for the solutions. There's a couple different ways that I would recommend. And the first one is, I think, the one that AWS really touts as well, and that's to really get hands-on with the platform. So if you don't already have access, sign up for the free tier AWS account or use your company's provision sandbox or innovation lab. That's the best way you're going to be able to see how this works and be setting yourself up for success. Now, as far as content and study material is concerned, there are 3 main training portals that I would recommend. The first and foremost, especially for the cloud practitioner, is AWS.Training. This is AWS's own training site. So that's the first place you'd want to go look at and look at the material they have there. I believe at last check, all that material is free. You can basically go through the cloud practitioner material, get trained, and then go in and take your certification exam. For all the other certifications, I recommend 2 sources. For the associate level certifications, I'd recommend acloud.guru. Great for associate level and great as a complementary source for professional and specialty level exams. The other is Linux Academy, especially for the professional level exams and the specialty level exams. They have by far the more comprehensive material. What I normally like to do is start with Linux Academy, go through their processes, go through their material, and then go back to acloud Guru as a complementary source for the specialty and the professional level exams. I think if you approach it in that manner, you'll be pretty successful. The other is practice exams. Check out the practice exams. They're available for most of the tests at a nominal cost. Go to the certification sites and you can purchase them there as well. Now, the last two resources to get prepped for exams is the AWS white papers and the AWS FAQs for the respective tests that you are taking. AWS publishes tons of material about their platform, and that's always a great place to take a look and do some additional learning to get prepped for the exam as well. All right, folks, that concludes our certifications chat. Please, if you like this video, smash the like button and hit subscribe. Don't forget the bell icon, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.